Shane, Shane, Shane. Shane, 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 Shane. A-L-A-N, Allen. A-L-A-N, Allen. Allen, 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 Allen.
Hey, it's the 38th parallel where the news meets nonsense. I didn't come up with that tagline. You know who came up with that tagline? ChatGPT. That's right. ChatGPT came up with that amazing tagline for the show. Your thoughts?
I like how you said, you know who came up with that? And then you introduced me like as if I did it. I didn't do it. Yeah. That's way too retarded for me to have come up with that.
ChatGPT.
I don't know. ChatGPT is very hit or miss. I'm a firm believer that you kind of have to work with it. You know, you can't be a Johnny come lately and just log on there and be like, what's the meaning of life? Because it's going to be garbage. You have to warm up to it. You have your dating period. You're flirting, feeling each other out, and then you start getting the good answers.
All right. So what about this? So I asked ChatGPT to come up with like a theme song for the show.
Okay. Was it just our names over and over and over again?
That'd be cool, right? But it came with some lyrics. It has some lyrics here. Okay. So verse 1. From soul to somewhere strange, we're dropping hot takes out of range. News is wild, the world's gone mad, so we laugh instead of getting sad. And then the chorus comes in. It's the 38th parallel where headlines get roasted real well. We bring the jokes, we bring the flair. So grab your mic, pull up a chair.
Why are they grabbing their mics? They're not talking. They're the audience.
I don't know. Maybe it should have been headphones. Grab your headphones. Yeah. But for some reason, I was thinking of because like the first line from Soul to Somewhere Strange, like the Ghostbusters theme, you know, when something strange. I don't know. I was just thinking about that.
Now you do know that if you can do that, so you can go to ChatGPT because the more you give it, the more exact comes out. So you can tell it, hey, ChatGPT, write me a song about this with containing elements of this and do it to the tune of this song. Mm-hmm. So I had ChatGPT write us a Christmas carol to the tune of Let It Snow. And it was about how much I hate Dave and how he ruins the show. And it wasn't great, but it certainly checked the boxes. I'll put it that way.
I'm sure he appreciated bringing that memory back up, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. I will say though, however, it perhaps my magnum opus from ChatGPT I got this week. I shared it Wednesday night. This might be the greatest picture it's done. Look, it's one of those if you know, you know type pictures. If you get the reference, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But that is easily the greatest picture that ChatGPT has made. So,
yeah.
If you know, you know.
I'm just nodding my head.
You haven't seen the British girl in Kermit?
I have seen that. Okay. And then Kermit saying what he's saying. He's like, well.
Like that picture, it's for what's so weird about it is like the picture of the girl is great. The reaction in her face and all that. But what's weird about it is Kermit's just a Muppet. Yet somehow the picture captures Kermit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just a Muppet. And yet somehow I can see it in his face. I don't know. It's weird. I'm going to see if I can I don't know. Are the NFTs still a thing? That should be a thing.
Well,
Pittsburgh's back on the clock.
Oh boy, we'll get to that, and we'll go to that here in a little bit. But like I said before, because I know you really wanted to talk about this stuff, but I wanted to speed right through it because I know you wanted to, because you were the one being like, "Hey, man, we need to talk about some of these podcast appearances from some people we love." So I'm kind of wondering if I should just like what order to go in, but I'll just first off, Pete Buttigieg was on Flagrant with Andrew Schultz.
Who's that?
And he's a stand-up comic who also talks about politics. We know some other guys who do that too. But this question, I like this question because it's so easy-handed, and you know where he's coming from. So here it is.
I know you got to get out of here, Pete.
Yeah, so this is my last one. I think the biggest issue facing America is the wage gap. Salaries have been stagnant. CEO pays have skyrocketed. Yeah. How can we convince corporations to pay higher salaries when their responsibility is to stockholders?
What do you think Pete Buttigieg is going to say after that?
Who knows? Whatever it is, it's going to be commie fucking retardation. I mean,
No,
what
right.
that guy just said was commie retardation.
Yeah. No, the wage gap really is a big problem. And so what do you think we need to do about these about this wage gap?
Well, it can't just be pretty please. I mean, this is where if the corporation, we have to either change the incentives on the front end so that there are tax advantages to taking better care of your people, or we have to be ready to do it through policy where this country says you're going to make $100 billion in wealth off of work that 100,000 people working for you generated. More of that needs to be going to them. And by the way, these things are actually related. I think there's a way to deal in American citizens on kind of like a dividend off of the
a dividend. And he also said the thing, you're making $100 billion off of the work of all the other people's backs. You said it. You said that's what he was going to say, and he said it. Not that exact thing, but the framing of it. He continues.
The value that's being created from AI and from I don't want to take it down a whole rabbit hole, but if you imagine
UBI kind of thing,
how's that?
Like a universal basic income kind of thing?
It could be. There's different ways to structure it, but I think it's giving everybody a share in the overall value that's being created by technologies, which again rest on technologies that the taxpayer paid for in the first place back in the 60s. So why shouldn't we all get a share?
We're investing it
Instead of it all going to this tiny handful of super wealthy people who are consolidating their own power, the same way the president's consolidating his political power. You got these I don't even just like normal billionaires, but like mega billionaires consolidating their power, right? We have to have tax policy that does that. We have to have a system that requires people who amass that kind of wealth to be sharing it with citizens. Because again, I know there's this myth. Look, I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs who create things, and they should be hugely rewarded when they create things that are valuable. But they created those things based partly on infrastructure that all of us paid for, right? And by infrastructure, I don't just mean roads and bridges. I mean national security. I mean things like inventing the internet or mRNA vaccine technology or whatever it is. But more broadly, and this is both on the substance and the politics, I think you're naming something that's hugely important, which is the inequality in this country. It doesn't get talked about enough. It has gotten worse pretty much our entire lives.
That's like nothing.
Like the politics of greed doesn't get talked about enough, says socialist. Yeah. The very first thing that came out of his mouth was the only thing that even had the slightest hope of making economic sense. But he almost it's almost like he accidentally said it and then changed the subject immediately. He said, we have to change the incentives, maybe make some favorable, tax situation for companies that take care of themselves. Well, how about you just rip up the tax code and the red tape and then see what happens? So like, for instance, when companies want to hire new employees, the company is going to be saddled with so much investment in you to pay for, Social Security and stuff like that, or their part. And every single, and you want to talk about like the consolidation of wealth. Government regulation and playing favorites helps consolidate the wealth into specific individuals and specific corporations, rather than it stifles competition, rather than having lots of different entrants into an industry. And so he like the very first thing that came out of his mouth was like, well, let's change the incentives. And then his first example of changing the incentives was talking about taxes. Like, yeah, you're right. Do that. Just if we're going to try Pete Buttigieg's list of ideas, let's start with that one. Let's tear up the regulatory red tape and let's lower let's lower corporate tax rates. And then let's see what's done with that money. And the reason why they wouldn't do it, and the reason why, I promise you, some handler somewhere told him, hey, don't say that anymore. But that doesn't play with our base because they're the bad guys. We're not going to lower taxes on them because we want them to pay their fair share. That's what you normally hear, right? Is, well, they got to pay their fair share. And so since they won't pay their employees more, we're going to tax them for more money and then give it to government. And then government is going to then somehow redistribute it. So 2 things with that. One, if you're taxing the business more and it drives up their cost, then that is going to disincentivize them to pay their employees more, not incentivize them. And 2, if you're saying that, well, since they won't do it, we'll take their money and give it to the government and let the government do it. Doesn't that sound an awful lot like trickle down economics, which is, Reaganomics, that all of these people would say is, the devil of mankind, that they don't believe in? Yeah. Like that. If anyone knows anything on, and this is why Democrats are getting scorched right now, is they, for better or worse, whether you agree with the party's whole platform or the Republicans' whole platform or not, for better or worse, the Democrats are the party of government solutions are good. So if we just get enough resources, things will be better. And I think that people with an IQ above room temperature know that is false. That government is to say that it's wasteful and inefficient is an incredible understatement. But again, all of them, the only answer he gave that made any sense at all would be exactly that. You're right. Let's change the incentive structure. We want them to pay their employees more. Well, I mean, think of the economic boom that would take place if you rolled back regulation and lowered corporate tax rates. And then you as a result had more corporations coming back and opening offices back in the United States because the corporate tax rate was lower. Think you want to talk about manufacturing, think how much better the manufacturing base would be, not because you're tariffing industries specifically into oblivion, but that you just simply lower taxes and regulations domestically and then just let it play out. Let's just see what happens. Everyone knows that would create more jobs and more prosperity. They just won't do it because while the average man would have a better job and make more money, the rich would also get richer, and they can't have that. They want the common man to get richer, but they don't want the CEO to get richer. And so if there's a solution where they both get richer, that's not good enough. So I guess what I'm saying is they want to hurt the rich more than they want to help the poor. There you go. That's probably my interesting takeaway. They want to hurt the rich more than they want to help the poor, which is crazy because there's a lot more poor than there are rich, right? That's the whole problem with inequality. So you would think if you could do something that could help all the poor people by 1%, even if it helped the rich people by 10%, you'd do it because you're going to help all the poor people by 1%. They won't do it though because they don't want to help the rich.
Man, I to me it sounds like Pete Buttigieg is going to run for president in 2020
again and be out
pretty obvious.
And immediately because he has no support at all.
Well, you know how people can be. They're delusional. They think, oh, well, I can do this. I have the best plan, the best idea to get us out of the Trump shit. All the things that Trump has been doing. I can get us out of this easy. I got this. Look, there's people who they're not going to vote for him specifically because he's gay. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. And you can be like, oh, that's, you're being a homophobe. Sorry.
Hey, that's just the world we live in. They voted for Obama.
Good point. I didn't think about that. Right.
Yeah. That's right.
I forgot about that guy. I want to forget about him.
Don't get me wrong. You're right. I think Buttigieg will run again someday, even if it's this time or later. He just won't have any better chance. It's just like Kamala Harris, where when she ran before, her support level was like literally treading 1%. So it's not like you almost had it, you know, and you just it's
Iowa.
No support base for you at all. And that's exactly where Buttigieg was. He has no base at all. The only reason, and then him dropping out immediately, endorsing the party's chosen guy, and then what does that do? That got him a position in the administration. That's how these games are played. He got to be transportation secretary because
that helps with his gayness because he likes playing trains.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but we'll come back. We'll work on it. We'll work on it.
Yeah. You know, let's let it sit there and mingle in the shittiness. Yeah.
It's why you're supposed to be, you know, clean, but never mind. Anyway, let's move on because the Steelers, I regret to inform everyone, they did not pick Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, what the? I can't believe it. Why did the Titans pass up on him in the first pick? It's Shaduer Sanders. He should have been like, I guarantee you when Cam Ward, when the Titans were about to be picked and Roger Goodell, I guarantee you Shadeur's like, all right, guys, here we go. You ready? I'm about to stand up. Ready? Cam Ward. Oh,
everybody knew that Cam Ward was going to go first. That wasn't really surprising. It's just what's surprising, legitimately surprising at this point, is that in all seriousness, there's like 3 or 4 teams that you would say, okay, it makes sense. It makes sense for them to draft him. It's not like a leap of faith or anything. But every single time one of those teams is on the clock and then they pass on him and it just keeps getting later and then it's just, you just keep thinking, man, they obviously don't. So now, because I mean, the second and third rounds are done on Friday. We're getting pretty close to the end of the third round now, and he's still on the board. There's only a handful more teams picking that I feel like have any serious chance of picking him. So anyway,
I don't think he had any top 30 meetings either. So I saw something that said that he didn't have any like top 10 or top 30 visits or whatever. Oh wait, no. So I wanted to see if that was actually true next. I thought I saw something like that, but so I looked it up. Did Shedeur Sanders have any top 30 meetings? And it said that he did have one with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But reports about the meeting success were mixed. Initially, there were claims that the meeting did not go well, but these were later debunked by Gary Dulac, a top insider in Pittsburgh, who stated the Steelers had a great meeting with Sanders and they really like it. Well, I guess not that much because they didn't pick him yet. I mean, it's still possible. Maybe in rounds 4 through 7, we'll see. But
yeah. So I mean, because the thing is that he didn't go early, which meant best case scenario, it's like into the first, start of the second, and then he didn't go there. So then the next best case scenario is that one of the teams that passed on him will then pick him with their next pick because it's like, well, this is a more value pick now. We picked him like second or third down the line, down our draft board, but he hasn't gotten picked there either. So now it's just kind of getting to the wide open that, well, if those 2 or 3 teams have more picks in the 4th or 5th or 6th, again, they could still pick him, but you might have a team that isn't on that short list just be like, well, if the dude's in the 6th round, like we think he's more talented, just physically more talented than like a 6th rounder. So we'll pick him and we'll just, you know, he'll just be our number 3 QB and we'll see how he develops. But it's still, so the teams that have already picked QBs, obviously the Titans, and then the Giants, everyone knew the Giants were going to pick a quarterback and it wasn't him. And then there was the Saints. Most people expected the Saints to pick a quarterback because Derek Carr is like dead. And so they're going to pick a quarterback, but it wasn't him. So now that only leaves a number of teams that, in my opinion, you can count on like one hand that it's like, we really need to, even if we don't like love the guy, we really need to pick a quarterback just so that we have another quarterback in the room for training camp this year because our quarterback situation isn't great. So there are some teams that fit that description right there. But again, the teams that I felt like were the most likely landing spots have now each picked 3 or 4 players, and it wasn't him. So that's if he ends up not getting picked tonight, which of course with each passing moment that seems more likely. If he's a round 4 through 7 player tomorrow, it's gonna be bad, man. Could you imagine he doesn't get picked? Like he just straight up is a free agent signing.
Undrafted, yeah.
Undrafted, yeah.
I mean, I don't even think that people who didn't like him were probably surprised that he's gone this far down.
Well, I mean, again, like a team like the Browns, for instance, were a potential. If the Browns get to like the 6th round and they're using compensatory picks and Shedeur Sanders is still, then you just pick him, right? Because it's like, who cares?
Yeah. Right.
You know, it's no skin. Like, you know, the 49ers had a pick left over. They were just like, we could just forfeit it, whatever. We'll pick Brock Purdy. Why not? You know?
Yeah. And then what happened?
Yeah. So, I mean,
losing the Super Bowl.
I definitely think he should get drafted, you know, and I'm not like, it's one of those things where like I would tell you like, you know, I think he should get drafted. And then you'd be like, oh, do you want to draft him? And I'd say, no, like, I'm not going to draft him. No. Like one of you guys should draft him. I feel strongly about that.
He's a great player, but I don't like him that much. Okay. How funny would it be if Sanders does go undrafted? So, because I saw Jay Forte asking about that. And that's a good question. If he were to go undrafted, how much would you be laughing? A lot, not much.
I'd be laughing a lot. Of course, the thing that's funny about that is that, so first of all, it would be bad for him because if you don't get drafted, that's going to be a mark on you forever.
Oh yeah,
you're not going to get paid hardly. He's going to have made more money from college than in NIL.
He's going to have to be like a really, really, really good player to even.
Like he is legit going to get a pay cut. If he doesn't get drafted really, really soon, he'll make less money next year than he made last year in college.
Hey, you want to be on our practice squad? He's like, what?
Okay.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
The Rams are up. Now, this is a team that I don't think it makes a ton of sense, but they do have quarterback listed as a need. And while they don't need him to play this year, they know that Stafford's clock, like they didn't know if Stafford was going to play another year. And now it looks like Stafford is going to play another year. But if you're already to that point where it's like Stafford waited to the last possible minute to say he plans on playing, then this probably will be his last year.
So you mentioned him, right? Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. His backup is no spring chicken himself, Jimmy Garoppolo. Mm-hmm. Who was a former,
and he has a history with McVay and stuff too. So so the thing is that McVay, because the thing is that it make it like I could like this is it. This is just us making the case that he could go there. But if McVay wants a quarterback to mold, you know, on in his free time, just to have a quality guy in the room, if he doesn't want him, he doesn't want him. If the Rams say, hey, Sean, you know, Shedeur Sanders is available, and McVay says, yeah, I'm not going to coach him, fuck him, then that's the end of it. But I'm saying that, again, if you actually thought he was talented and you didn't expect him to be here, then it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if the Rams drafted him. But after that, it's like, I mean, the Ravens are not going to draft him. The Seahawks are not going to draft him. The Saints just picked a quarterback. They're not going to draft him. We're now getting to the 30th pick of the 3rd round before there's another team picking that like makes any logical sense to pick him. I mean, I don't know. In a weird sort of way, I do slightly feel bad for him just because it's like, if you just on an individual level, like you're looking at like that Tyler Shaw guy that got drafted by the Saints. If you're like, I'm better than him, I'm faster than him, I'm stronger than him, I'm more accurate than him, I'm better armed than him, I have better tape than him, I have better stats than him, I'm better than him, then obviously you're going to take it personally, right?
Oh yeah,
you would. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's racist that he didn't get picked over him, but it is personal. You know what I mean? It is personal.
Oh, it's very racist. What are you talking about? I mean, he's black and Jackson Dart's white. So,
well, I said Tyler Shaw. Jackson Dart also is white, got picked for him, but not that Jackson Dart's just better than him. But that Tyler guy's not better than him. He sucks. He shouldn't even start in college next year, much less in the NFL.
One of the Saints were like, hey, we don't want to take that baggage of you bringing your dad along, and your dad basically going to the coaches and be like, hey, you better fucking play Shedeur Sanders or you're going to lose your job, mister. I think that's part of it. I think that is part of it. The fact that when you draft Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders is going to be there walking around, hey, what's going on with my son? He's the coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, but still, he's still going to be lurking around.
The Saints drafted a guy who would not start for a top 25 college team to compete with Shane Rattler behind Derek Carr, and Derek Carr is probably going to miss the season with a shoulder injury, and they chose that over Shedeur Sanders.
The Saints are right. I think we'd rather go with Rattler than the possibility of Shedeur Sanders being a good player.
I mean, the thing is that Rattler, it's like, because that's the thing too, is like if you took both of those guys in their last year in college, Shedeur Sanders was better than Rattler too. But obviously they felt like Rattler was worth a pick just to kick the tires. And they obviously, like I said, there's no way that he's still on the board right now, other than the fact that teams that would have drafted him specifically decided not to, and it was specifically for a personal reason. And you know what? You can just let people decide for themselves what that personal reason is. I don't think it's his skin color.
Well, here's some other quarterbacks. Okay, so obviously Ward was number one according to PFF. It was number one. Shaduer Sanders is he's listed number two, but in the big board rank they have him at 45, and then they have Jalen Milroe.
Milroe should be undrafted. He's undrafted free agent written all over him. He sucks. He can't play quarterback. If he's not going to change positions, he's not in the NFL.
Yeah. And then you have Will Howard.
Now, that's an interesting one because he's just always not been rated particularly high, even though obviously he was a starting quarterback for a major college football program. But he and the Rams pick another edge rusher.
I think we have a problem.
So he at a bare minimum is not going to get picked for at least another few picks. So we'll check back in with him at pick number 30.
Can you imagine though if he gets picked at 199 like Tom Brady? He's like, I had this Tom Brady mentality. Nobody believed in me except for the team that just drafted me. He knows all the quarterbacks that were drafted above him by memory.
What's funny is that like the ESPN draft thing always has best available and then best fit based on what those teams' needs are. They're now to the point where ESPN's ranking of best available player not drafted is Shaduer Sanders. So now Shaduer Sanders is just on screen all the time, and you're just constantly seeing some other player name pop up.
He's the best player available. Why hasn't he been drafted yet? I don't get it, says Mel Kiper Jr.
Well,
Mel Kiper Jr. must be flipping his shit.
Dude, Mel Kiper has lost his mind. So first of all, he just straight up said he thought Shaduer Sanders was the best quarterback in the draft. For one, that's ridiculous. Two, Mel Kiper has kind of not been super relevant for like a decade plus at this point. And they just keep him on because he's the draft guy. It's like that Lunardi who does the bracketology for college basketball, right? Like he's just the bracket guy, and so they keep him on. It's not like his brackets are ever perfect. They're far from it. But again, it's like, it's one thing to say that Shaduer Sanders is talented, and despite there being potential red flags, you take a chance on him. It's another thing to say, oh, no, he's the best quarterback in the draft. I never said he was the best quarterback. Like, even if personality didn't matter, even if you could implant a microchip in his brain and he just becomes Peyton Manning, it doesn't matter. He was never the best quarterback in the draft. But keep in mind, now this is coming from, I wouldn't have drafted Ward, by the way. I would not have drafted a quarterback. If my team was picking early because my team sucked and we needed a quarterback, I would have traded down, and I probably would have, like, whatever first round pick they gave me in return, I probably would have traded down again. I would have gotten so many picks, and I would have absolutely gone nuts on O-line, D-line, corner, and running back this year. And running back and tight end, if I wanted skill players, because this is a pretty deep draft for running back and tight end, I would have skipped wide receiver, not a deep draft for that. And I would have gone O-line, D-line, running back, tight end. And then next year, I would have looked at getting a quarterback. But I would not have drafted any of the quarterbacks. Keep in mind, Cam Ward got drafted number 1 because apparently he doesn't have any red flags like Shedeur Sanders was, except for he literally quit on his own team at halftime of their bowl game. He told the coach to his face, "My career is over." And then their team ended up going on to lose their bowl game. If that's not a massive red flag for character, I don't know what is. If it had been any other game at any other point in the season, that's like kick off the team level. I mean, we talked about this, I think, once before on the show with, like, in the NFL. If you're on an NFL roster on the sideline and you're dressed and the coaches call your number and you say no, you just ended your career. That just doesn't, that's over.
Yeah, I saw that with the 49ers. Devondre Campbell basically quit, I think, in like the third quarter. He's like, I don't want to be taken off the field for someone. No, I'm good. And then he walks off. I think that was during the Monday Night Football game, I believe.
The Seahawks, with the 92nd overall pick, just picked Jalen Milroe.
Oh no. Oh no. Shaduer Sanders. Oh no.
So first of all, Jalen Milroe can't play quarterback. If he's not, he has to change positions. He can't play quarterback. Like, everyone knows this. He's awful.
Who's the quarterback? I think with the Saints, who does like the Wildcat stuff with them. Oh, what's his name?
You talking about the guy from Taysom Hill?
Yeah,
because he's not even a quarterback anymore. Now he's just a tight end, pretty much.
Maybe they'll envision him being something like that type of guy. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but he can't play quarterback. That's the thing, is that they drafted him in the 3rd round, and he's listed as a quarterback when I'm not being mean because he's an Alabama guy. I'm telling you, he can't play quarterback, period. He certainly can't play quarterback in the National Football League. And he got picked as a quarterback over Shaduer Sanders. I will say, though, that's probably the first pick I've seen where I thought like it's not crazy for the Seahawks to pick a quarterback, but they had a bunch of other positions they needed. But they picked one.
And you said,
but it wasn't.
Jalen Milroe has undrafted written all over him. And he gets picked in the 3rd round.
So the Seahawks are garbage. Seahawks.
Thank you. As a Niners fan. Well,
they already traded Geno to the Raiders to be with Pete Carroll.
Yeah, and they have what? Drew Lock.
Dude, the 49ers can't rebuild because the rest of their division is tanking. You can't rebuild now. Matthew Stafford's about to be on Social Security, and Kyler Murray is actually shrinking. He's getting shorter by the minute. Yeah. And the Seahawks are selling. The Seahawks are selling hard. So dude, you can't tank now. You got to win the division.
Brock Purdy's looking better and better. Oh, that's funny. I thought for a second, though, when you had made that face, that shock face, I thought you were going to say Shaduer Sanders because I wasn't even looking. I thought you were going to say Shaduer, but
when I saw Milroe pop up, and it just not. First of all, him specifically is hilarious. But
the Saints' pick is in. Here we go.
Well, they already picked a quarterback. They picked Tyler Shaw.
You never know. You never know.
Well, you don't create your own QB competition in the same year.
Tyler is 1,000 years old. Maybe we can pick someone who's younger than that. I don't know.
He's older than Trevor Lawrence.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, they picked that guy in the 2nd round over Shaduer Sanders. That dude was born in the 90s.
So crazy.
And he got picked in the 2025 NFL draft.
He was born before 9/11.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was born 2 years before 9/11, dude.
Just in life. In real life. God damn.
He was in college for 7 years. You want to talk about red flags? He's had 3 season-ending injuries in his college career. Does that sound like a longevity to you in the NFL? Like,
well, God. I can't even imagine them thinking that, I bet this guy can be our starter for a while. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have 3 season-ending injuries in college, what do you yeah, do you think you could how's your injured did the injury go away? Are you okay now? Okay, good. He told us we were good. Like, the medical doctors cleared him.
By the end of the first month of this coming NFL season, he'll be 26.
I might as well fucking play for them. Come on, draft me. Shit. I look younger than him. Might as well.
Dude, Trevor Lawrence won't even be 26 till October. He's like 3 weeks younger than that guy. It's nuts. And Trevor Lawrence has already been in the league for like 3 or 4 years or whatever it is. Jeez.
All right, man. The Browns are on the clock.
I know this is another one that it's like if they don't pick him, then it's like he has to be a compensatory pick at the end of the round, or it's honestly, tomorrow.
If I was Shedeur Sanders, I wouldn't want to go to fucking Cleveland. Like, fuck it. I don't know.
Well, the thing is that because again, it's just the thing is that they just re-signed Joe Flacco. They got rid of Joe Flacco and picked Deshaun Watson last year, even though Flacco took him to the playoffs. And then of course, obviously Watson did Watson things, and he's out again. And then Flacco went to Indianapolis, where he wasn't as good, but what he ended up playing some because Anthony Richardson is trash. Right. And then the Browns re-signed Flacco. That's weird. That's kind of awkward for the Browns because it's like, well, that just means Flacco's 2 years older than he already was when you decided, we're going to go a different direction. Man.
He got it.
But it's not a bad situation for Shadur because it's like, well, he doesn't have to compete to play in week 1 because they'll just say, look, we're going to start Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson is still on the roster, but he's like going to start the season IR or whatever. And then Shadur can like play in the preseason, and then he'll be like the number 3 guy going into the season. And that would be, if you thought he was talented, but you didn't think he was NFL ready, that's exactly. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want my favorite player to play for the Cleveland fucking Browns. I'm just saying, as far as a quarterback situation, because if you're a young quarterback, but you're not quite ready, you want to go to a team that doesn't need you today, but does need another quarterback on the team. That's a good place. And that's the kind of place Cleveland is. They're not going to need you to start this year, but they do need to be thinking about the future. And you'll be on the team and have a year under your belt and learn the system and all that good stuff. And, I mean, they have QB listed. So they've got a defensive tackle, and they've drafted one. They needed linebacker. They've already drafted one. They need wide receiver, offensive tackle, and QB. Wide receivers are done. Even the top wide receivers weren't that good, and they're already off the board. So either they're going to get another defensive lineman, or they're going to get an offensive lineman, which is perfectly reasonable, or they're going to draft a quarterback. But at this point, it's like, can you just think off the top of your head a quarterback that's left on the board that you're like, oh yeah, I'm picking him, not Sanders. Maybe the guy from Ohio State, maybe
Will Howard, yeah,
maybe Will Howard, but other than that,
Kyle McCord, Dylan Gabriel.
Oh yeah, Dylan Gabriel ain't good. He sucks. Like Dylan Gabriel is the prototypical college quarterback. Like he can't play in the NFL, but he was good in college. Like
how about Hudson Card?
Yeah, how about Hudson Card? Jesus. Because I would say, how about Jalen Milroe? But we are.
Yeah. You literally said
the Seahawks are selling. It's over for the Seahawks, dude.
Thank God. I had to, dude.
By the way, Jackson Dart blows. Like as a Cowboys fan, the Giants trading down to get more picks was a good move for them as a team. Them using one of those picks to trade back up and get Jackson Dart is hilarious because Jackson Dart blows.
They have Russell Wilson, right? And he's
and Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston, yeah. So he's going to be you trade back up in the first round to get him, and he's going to be your third quarterback on the depth chart.
Well, what people are saying now is that so they signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, and the only quarterback they kept from the old regime was Tommy DeVito. But now they picked Jackson Dart. Well, they're not going to keep 4. So right off the jump, one of those guys is either getting cut or traded. And it just comes down to, is there a team out there that wants Tommy DeVito just purely as a backup option? Because he can't be a starter. Or is there a team who will like Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston start preseason, and whichever one, like one of them is gonna be basically picked to be kind of like the veteran going forward, and the other one might be trade bait. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, I think both of those guys are. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Do you see it?
Wait. Oh, what?
Dillon Gabriel to the Browns. So that means the Browns are out. They're out of the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes. They drafted. Dude, Dillon Gabriel's a midget.
Oh my god. So how many teams is that left? The Rams? Is that it?
I guess still the Steelers are still out there because the Steelers could use another quarterback, and they haven't picked one yet. But man, not the Saints, not the Browns, not the Giants, not the Titans. Obviously not the Seahawks, I guess, for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. Where's he going to go at this point? I don't know. It ain't the Browns anymore.
So on this one website I'm looking at with the Steelers, updated April 25th, so that was today. Pittsburgh Steelers depth chart for this year. They're 2 quarterbacks. 2.
Yeah.
Skylar Thompson and Mason Rudolph. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they re-signed Mason Rudolph back from the Titans because they wanted to have a veteran who knows their system. Right. So but that's not a starter, right? That's just like that's the guaranteed veteran backup is Mason Rudolph. Skylar Thompson is the basically emergency quarterback. So they still need a quarterback. Like the Steelers need a quarterback.
Yeah. So Shadeur's not going to get picked because the remaining teams in the third round in day 2, it's not happening.
Because remember last year the Steelers had Russell Wilson and the Bears.
Justin Fields. And everyone was saying which one will they keep, and the answer was neither. They got rid of both of them. And so the Steelers literally only have 2 quarterbacks on the roster, and neither of them are a legit starter, and only one of the 2 at least is like a career backup in Pittsburgh. So they need a quarterback. They need one. Isn't that crazy that like that whole draft class, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, awful. Like probably the worst QB class that I can think of. Maybe Trevor Lawrence. Well, Trevor Lawrence is still on the same team, so at least he's like by far the best one.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence currently has the reputation of he's underperforming compared to expectations, but he also is a Jaguar. And it's like, well, what are you supposed to do when you play for the Jaguars? Like if Trevor Lawrence, think of a team that was a Super Bowl, not Super Bowl, but like a playoff caliber team from last year that, maybe was, unsettled at that position or whatever, and be like, if that team had Trevor Lawrence, would they be better? I'd say, yeah, I'd say so. But now, but of course, I thought you were going to bring up just the Steelers specifically. It's just that Mike Tomlin for the last few years has kind of been on that. Is he on the hot seat? Is he not? As long as they keep winning, they can't fire him, but it's almost like they're waiting to have a losing season, then they'll fire him. But the other side of that coin has been that, well, when he had a quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger, they were contenders. And then after Big Ben got old and then retired, they weren't contenders anymore. But Mike Tomlin's just the coach. He doesn't go out and sign quarterbacks. And so it's like, how many years will the Steelers organization go without getting a quarterback and then blaming Mike Tomlin because their offense isn't very good? And then again, last year they went out and got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Neither of those guys are legit QB1s. And then they cut both of them. So he still doesn't have a quarterback. And now we're at the end of the third round, and he still doesn't have a like. You would think Mike Tomlin would be in the draft room saying, "I need a fucking quarterback on my roster. I have to have someone to take the snap."
Care. Yeah, like they could have picked one already. Maybe they're going to wait until day 3.
Again, don't get me wrong. I don't think any of this year's quarterbacks are good, but you got to go sign a free agent then, right? You got to have somebody. Someone's got to be on your team.
Hey, maybe Brock Purdy can be traded there.
49er for life. But anyway, use that as a perfect example. So take last year, for instance, where Justin Fields is kind of, he's okay. They're a little over 500. Then Russell Wilson comes in and he's better than he was in Denver. He's not great, but he's better than he was in Denver. And then the Steelers are right on the cusp of the playoffs. Do you think that Steelers team with that defense, say they had Trevor Lawrence, do you think they're a playoff team? I'd say yes. I would think that team, but with Trevor Lawrence, would be a playoff team. So it's if you're not going to draft if you're going to go literally a whole decade without drafting a quarterback, then just trade for one. Go get somebody like that.
Is Mike Tomlin the luckiest head coach right now? Because no quarterback.
So people that hate Mike Tomlin would say the Steelers have peaked under him and they're not contenders anymore, so he should get fired. But fans of Mike Tomlin would say he's had nothing to work with for years and they still managed to be above 500. So God forbid you go out and get 1 or 2 skill players in a decade. No, they haven't though. So that's all I'm saying is that if I were the NFL GM, I would be the Jaguars are terrible. So we're going to take Trevor Lawrence because the Jag fans are Trevor Lawrence, he didn't work out. It's okay, well, if you guys are ready to move on, then you guys draft a new quarterback and we'll move Trevor Lawrence over here. Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
But of course we're only having that conversation because the Steelers just refuse to get one. So we're forcing them to take a trade.
Tyler Show. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Who cares? He's absolute garbage.
Tyler Show is older than Brock Purdy, who is entering his 4th season in the NFL and close to his 2nd contract. Well, there you go.
Hold on. Now I... Oh, yeah, dude. He is a whole year older than Spencer Rattler, who is the other quarterback already playing for the Saints.
How long are they expecting him to play? If you have him in your draft, you draft him, and then he's 58 years old. How old? What is he? Aaron Rodgers? How old do you expect him to? Or how long do you expect him to last? 4 years, maybe.
I know what the I know what the ultimate.
It's like Brandon Weeden when the Browns drafted Weeden. Pretty sure they drafted him.
So he is he's about a year and 2/3 younger than Lamar Jackson. Because remember, Lamar Jackson was super young because he was still 20 or 20. He was still just turned 21 when he entered the NFL. So Lamar Jackson is only a year and a half older than Tyler Shaw. And how many years has Lamar Jackson already been in the NFL?
A while. Maybe 8 years now, I think.
I don't think it's that many, right? He's 7. Yeah. Lamar Jackson has been in the NFL for 7 years and won multiple MVP awards, and he's a year and a half older than the Saints draft pick.
I would say the Jackson Dart pick, but yeah, now I'm convinced that Tyler Shaw pick was definitely a go fuck yourself to Shedeur Sanders. And basically the whole Sanders family probably, because like I was saying earlier, when you draft him, it's like with the Lakers with LeBron. You have his son playing there too. It's I want him to play too, because now you're latching them together. So when you have Shedeur, Deion's got to be there too.
I mean, they picked him. I mean, they picked him over the dude from Ohio State. They picked him over Dylan Gabriel. They picked him over. Yeah. They picked him over other people too. But
I'm sure Saints fans. I don't know. I haven't seen Saints fans, but I'm pretty sure they're so excited for Tyler Shaw.
Okay. I don't think the Raiders draft him. I don't think they do. And they just signed Geno Smith out of free agency, so that's the starter 100%.
That would be a Pete Carroll
and
move,
I think
though.
they still have last year's quarterback, who would be presumably the backup, who would at least be competing with Geno Smith. So I don't think the Raiders draft him, but it's not the craziest. The Raiders have like a handful of compensatory picks coming up. It wouldn't be the nuttiest thing in the world for them to draft him. Because if you look at it from the Raiders standpoint, let's say hypothetically Shedeur Sanders balls out. Then the Raiders would be like, dude, look at us. We drafted Ashton Genty and Shedeur Sanders in the same draft and then like had our QB RB duo for like a decade. So I'm not saying that it's impossible that they draft him, but I still consider it somewhat unlikely.
So I saw they're getting Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just say they're actually getting ready to pick back to back. The Raiders have the next two picks, and then the 49ers again.
Yeah. So I saw this tweet. Given Shadeur's strong ties to Tom Brady, who, if people don't know, I think he's like a minor owner, has like a minor ownership of the team. Raiders passing on him at 37, 48, and 58 only validates other teams' reservations, doubts about the QB. Said it back at the combine. His interviews, including board work, went very badly. I got the ball in my hand. Things happen, man. And then coaches and people are like, okay, but do you know how to call a play?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, let's talk about legitimate reasons why he hasn't been drafted yet, and not racism.
He's
not that. It's he plays he plays superhero ball, which means he just constantly tries to develop plays on his own, which means he gets sacked constantly because also Colorado didn't run a pro offense. So that means he's coming in day one, basically having to learn everything. And some QBs are like that. They don't play a pro offense in college. Number 3, he doesn't have the highest test scores when it comes to the old noggin. He's not the brightest crayon in the box. On top of, he's going to have a big learning curve. So those two things combine to be bad. Plus, he has a lot of negative tendencies on the field. Plus, all of those things are then revealed in these meetings where he apparently came off as being not great. So even if you liked him as an athlete, and even if you think that he had the physical tools necessary to be a quarterback in the NFL, you would be saying that, well, at a bare minimum, we're going to have to really work hard with this kid to get him where we need him to be, which that's fine. But are you willing to put in the work to develop a kid if you already don't like his attitude? It's like if he had a great attitude, but you didn't think he was ready for the NFL, you might be willing to work with him. But if he has a shitty attitude, you might say that, well, why am I going to go the extra mile to help develop him when we don't think that he's a good teammate?
Do you think if he gets drafted, his career could be like a Johnny Manziel, where, on the field, he was kind of the same. He was like playing a lot of hero ball, and he had kind of like this, like, kind of overconfidence, and the whole like, look at money.
Well, if his career is like Johnny Manziel, then he has no career. If his career is like if his career is like Baker Mayfield, then it's like you have the tools. But you're going to have to humble yourself, and then, earn the opportunity. He's going to have to earn the opportunity. If he walked into those meetings saying, "I'm just here to find out who's going to draft me in the first round because I'm the best quarterback on this list," versus I'm trying to earn an opportunity to start in the NFL because I believe I have what it takes. Those are obviously two different people. I think a lot of the complaints of Baker Mayfield early on were he wasn't an all-star talent and he didn't have the best attitude. And now it's kind of evolved into he's still not an all-star talent, but he's a good teammate.
49ers are on the clock. Shaduer Sanders time. Here we come. Can you imagine?
I'm still waiting to see the second some dude from William and Mary getting
offensive lineman.
Yeah, they just drafted 2 offensive tackles back to back. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're those are good picks. It's just not a quarterback.
Could you just imagine though if the 49ers did pick Shedeur Sanders? Oh man.
If they did pick Shaduer Sanders, then it's just going to be a media firestorm tomorrow of Shaduer Sanders walking in on day 1 saying, "This is my team," and Brock Purdy being like, "What? We don't need this white
boy. Let me take over."
The reason why I would say a team like the 49ers wouldn't draft him, or at least wouldn't draft him at this point, is because look, they're going to pay Brock Purdy whatever he wants. They're just going to. The dude's got the experience. He's got the tape. He's been to the playoffs. He's won games.
Last season was pretty bad, though. I mean, considering the other season, it wasn't that great. He had a lot.
Yeah,
of
for
mistakes.
Brock Purdy and the remaining 7 players on the sideline. Yeah, it was a bad season for the 49ers.
Well, yeah, that's true. There were some injuries that they had to deal with.
They had the double whammy of, they bit the bullet and paid players who then A, were assholes, and B, then got hurt. And then didn't they already get rid of what's his name, the wide receiver?
Deebo Samuel, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but what was the other one that they paid a big contract to and then he got hurt?
Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, Ayuk.
And he probably won't be ready until the midseason.
So they paid Ayuk big money for him to then get knocked out, and then they let go of Deebo Samuel. And even if you felt like you were over Deebo Samuel, it's like, yeah, but someone has to play wide receiver next year. Like,
without even knowing what the pick is, I can't see it. But they've gotten edge, D tackle, linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess that it's probably going to be either. This is where the running back gets picked. It's like, hey, you got your defensive players in your first 3 picks. Kyle Shanahan, let me get the running back. Will you give me that? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a possibility. Or they got rid of Talanoa Funga, who was their safety. He went to Denver. Maybe this could be the replacement for him. So that's where I'm thinking. I haven't even seen the picks yet. I don't even know.
That's interesting. I do remember the 49ers needing more running back help because, of course, CMC was hurt forever.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they don't even have running back listed as an area of need for them.
Which is stupid because even if Christian McCaffrey comes back, you don't know how
he's not going to make it much longer.
Yeah. And they got rid of Jordan Mason, which was dumb. I liked him. They should have kept him. He was pretty good as a replacement for Christian McCaffrey, but now you'll have CMC and Isaac Guerrero, Patrick Taylor Jr. I think it's on. You need running backs in this team because I don't know if you know this, but Kyle Shanahan likes to run the freaking running back until their basically knees fall off.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, is that like even if by some miracle CMC comes back and he's 100%.
Yeah,
he's still going to like finish out the season and then be done next year because he's just at that point in his career. The likelihood that he comes back and plays like 2 or 3 more years at peak is just 0%. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
This was a running back heavy class though. There was a lot of good running backs to draft. Dylan Sampson hasn't been drafted yet. So Dylan Sampson was a running back at UT. He carried Tennessee to the playoffs last year in college football. Dylan Sampson. He carried the Vols to the playoffs last year.
Maybe Dylan Sampson.
And he hasn't been drafted yet.
He can hang with his buddy Juwan Jennings, fellow Vol.
He should. Do they still have Josh Dobbs?
Though? No. He's I think he's with the Patriots now.
Why doesn't anybody just keep Josh Dobbs for more than 5 minutes?
They always have to tell everybody that, hey, he's like an actual like rocket scientist, right? But then as a QB, you can go over there now. He's the complete journeyman. That's who he is. He's a journeyman.
It's just so I don't know. Well, yeah, Juwan Jennings. Like Juwan Jennings is like
look at that. Look at that.
Juwan Jennings.
I wasn't 100% right, but I had the right idea. They did pick a defensive back.
That's a good name for one. Upton Stout.
He better
be.
That's
a good name.
He better be.
I mean, he's a cornerback from Western Kentucky, so he's going to get burnt 40 times and cut. But other than that,
Yeah.
Jawan Jennings is like this close to being the wide receiver 1 for the 49ers because everyone else keeps dying.
That's fine with me. That or getting shot in the chest.
You say that's fine with you, and I mean I'm obviously a huge fan of Jawan Jennings because he played at UT, but this is why Brock Purdy's numbers are going down. Is because he's just like
you kind of need someone,
looking around for someone to take the ball from me, please.
Well, that or someone who actually has some speed, Jawan's not the fastest guy.
No, he wasn't the fastest guy in college either. He just carried 3 or 4 defenders into the end zone because he was a man amongst boys. And then everyone said, well, the reason why he wasn't a big draft pick was because, he can't do that in the NFL. And then you saw him in the Super Bowl. And then he would have been the MVP
if he would have been the MVP if they had won.
If they had connected on the final touchdown to him and then like stopped the Chiefs, he'd have won it. Oh, he should have won. He should have won Super Bowl MVP if that
Brandon Ayuk was wide open though on the left side. He was open on the left side. But had that fucking what's his name coming at you. I don't have much time to think. So that
at this point, it's like we're basically on to the weekend at this point.
Maybe Harry Roseman and be like, let's get Shedeur Sanders. Why not? Screw it. Maybe the Vikings. Who's the Vikings quarterback?
JJ McCarthy.
What?
They drafted JJ McCarthy to be their quarterback. So he just got hurt last year and they went with, what's his name?
Sam Darnold.
And then Sam Darnold's already been traded. So
okay, so
it's JJ McCarthy, and just the simple fact that not only is he their quarterback of the future, but he's also super young. So they're not going to bring in another super young quarterback with a super young quarterback. They would want another veteran. Yeah. It looks like, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wait till the weekend.
Can you imagine
to see where Shaduer Sanders plays?
Is he going to do another one of those videos? Hey, we weren't expecting this either. We thought it'd be gone by now.
Have they kept the party going that he was having like at his house or whatever? Remember, did you see all that? They were having a party at his house for his,
because they probably expected him to be picked on the TV in the first round.
And he had all the special decorations and all the chains that say legendary and all that stuff.
Again, just the optics of that. Talking on
it's
the
not
video,
good. It's not good.
Fucking ridiculous diamond, whatever the fuck chain.
Yeah.
Fucking like 5 figures at least cost wise. You're just like, what are you? Of course you're not going to get picked. Maybe take that thing off. I don't know.
Yes. So you had all the jewelry. You had a little room with a TV in it, and the wall was plastered with Sanders legendary, Shadur legendary, and then he had that
NFL yet.
And then he had that cabinet that had all the hats for the different teams of the teams that he thought might draft him, so that he could pick his own hat. So they did all of that and had a camera crew with like 24-hour access, and he's going into Saturday not even drafted.
A camera?
It looks pretty bad.
No self-awareness was okay. Now I completely understand now why no team wants to pick him yet. No self-awareness whatsoever. You're not even in the NFL yet, and you're calling yourself legendary. You haven't even done anything yet, you dummy.
Hey, whoa.
Great. What?
Whoa. That's the Big 12 player of the year you're talking about.
I don't give a shit. I don't care. Big 12 player of the year? Who gives a fuck? Call yourself a legendary. You're not even in the NFL yet.
Well, no one cares about the Big 12.
You might actually, I know you weren't expecting this, but you might actually go undrafted. Not so legendary. At least
that's
the
it.
Draft week.
There's another random nobody wide receiver from Maryland. So that's the end of the 3rd round.
Come on, it's over.
I gotta look now. I'm just gonna look at what the picks are coming up. So you have the Titans and Jags. Obviously not the Titans. Yeah. I don't guess it's impossible for the Jags to draft him, because the Jags got Travis Hunter, and it's like he doesn't have to come in and start. They have Trevor Lawrence, but there are Jags fans that don't like Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be the craziest thing. But after that, the Giants have already picked one. The Patriots have a young quarterback. You have the Jags again. You have the Raiders. It's not going to be Bears. Jets. Not Eagles. Not Saints because they already picked one. I mean, I don't know, man. It's at this point, if he doesn't get if those teams in particular, if teams like the Jags and the Raiders and the Jets are we're good. We're not drafting a quarterback. We're moving on. Then it's like at that point, you're already getting to the middle of the 4th round before you can even find a team that might draft him. The Steelers pick again with the 21st pick of the 4th round. But, it's like I said, there's always a possibility that the Steelers said, we think he could probably play. But we moved him down on our board because he kind of turned us off. But if he falls all the way down to our 5th or 6th pick, then we might be like, okay, well, we know what he's capable of, so we'll pick him that low. So I don't think that it's impossible that one of those teams picks him, but of the teams that going in had the highest likelihood of drafting him, most of those teams have already picked a quarterback. So yeah, we'll see what I would think that the Titans would probably want to draft a running back because they actually pick first on Saturday. And there's still a couple of good running backs available. And obviously they're not going to pick Sanders because they got Ward. But I mean, once you get into the 20s, into the mid 20s in round 4 is when you start getting around to a couple of teams that might pick them. After that, you're already on to round 5. And in the 5th round, it's it's just the same teams. And so it's like, you're just playing that game of if he's going to get picked, and it's going to be one of those teams. It's a team that did meet with him, that did watch his tape, that did scout him, that, ranked him on their board. And then they just decided that, because of whatever reason, we're knocking him all the way down to here. But, if we have a pick and he's available 200 picks down, then we'll pick him.
I mean, I don't know how much of this is going to affect future draft prospects where they look at this and they go, wow, I thought he was going to be in the 1st round. I mean, at the very least in the day 2, but the fact that he's now day 3, geez, maybe I need to change my tune and really get in those interviews and show that I can, I got to show them that I really want this and not just come in there and act like I'm the greatest thing ever and call myself legendary. Did he say that during the interviews? Hey, my name is legendary, actually, not Shedeur Sanders.
We don't know, but considering how bad it's getting now, don't you wish that there was a hidden recording of his interviews, just so that you could see just how bad it must have been? I mean, who knows? The thing is, too, is that every single year there's always a little bit of gamesmanship amongst the teams. Like some teams will be like, yeah, we really like this kid, knowing full well they're going to draft somebody else because they're just playing the game. Right. It's mind games. And vice versa. There might be teams say, yeah, that, we didn't, this didn't really work out. We wish him the best, but actually there's nothing wrong with him. It's just bullshit. It's definitely not race, obviously. It's so funny to say that it's racist that he hasn't been picked, even though the number one overall pick is a black guy.
Well,
so I mean, obviously, so the Tennessee Titans aren't racist, but everybody else is racist.
But you did mention that apparently he did quit on his team. So I mean, that's a big thing.
On his team.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, he got drafted number 1.
Yeah,
I wouldn't draft him. I would not. If the Dallas Cowboys had mysteriously gotten the number 1 pick, even though they still obviously have Prescott owing him tons of money and whatever, I would not have wanted to pick. Like I said, I would not have picked a quarterback this year, period. I think the whole quarterback class isn't good. So when we're talking about Shaduer Sanders and how it's interesting how he hasn't been drafted yet, what we're really saying is that out of an entire quarterback class that isn't that good, he wasn't the best.
Yeah.
But he's not the worst either. But he's only above average in a weak class. Like if Shaduer Sanders were coming out of the draft the same year as like Joe Burrow, then nobody would be wanting to interview Shedeur Sanders. They'd be drafting Joe Burrow. So I mean, now the more I've thought about it now, the more I actually think it'll kind of be because the Jags pick twice in like the first 5 picks tomorrow. I think it would be kind of funny if they pick Shedeur Sanders just because they picked Travis Hunter. Like they traded up. The Jaguars gave away the franchise, by the way. I don't actually think Travis Hunter's that good, to be honest with you. I don't even think Travis Hunter's that good. And the Jaguars gave away the franchise to move up like 3 spots so that they could get Travis Hunter. So wouldn't it be funny if Travis Hunter, like, because they've put so much investment into him and into that pick, if he was like, I'd like to be reunited with my college quarterback, and then the Jags with like a middle round pick Shedeur Sanders. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong. That wouldn't be like if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play well the first few weeks, you bench him for Shedeur Sanders. That would be a terrible idea for them. I'm just saying that if the Seahawks are willing to draft Jalen Milroe, then the Jags could be willing to draft Shedeur Sanders. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, it would sell them tickets, I guess. So that's what they're thinking. It's all a business. I mean, winning
in
games.
In that case, they should go get Shiloh Sanders. They should just draft all 3. Just draft Shedeur and Shiloh
Deion
tomorrow.
Sanders the coach, not that whatever the hell his name is, Liam Cohen, Duval, whatever the fuck he was saying. Ugh.
Well,
God, that was so awkward.
They need to get over that because they're going to be the London Jaguars pretty soon. So they're going to have to come up with a
they gotta have a London, and then they might have to Tokyo. They might have to have a Paris. This all international. Mexico City. Why not? Can you imagine the traveling for that? My God, you definitely have to have 2 bye weeks for that.
I mean, Mexico City it makes more sense geographically, but it doesn't make sense in more real world terms because it's a shithole in a shithole country. I mean, London's a shithole in a shithole country, but it's different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, they're just going to have a higher end clientele that'll buy those tickets to go see those games. Whereas like, who's the fan base for the Mexico City Jaguars? Like who?
They're having a game.
It would just be expats. It would just be Americans who live in Mexico going to football games. And it would end up being like the LA teams. You would go to a Mexico City Jaguars games and it would be 3/4 Steelers fans watching them beat the shit out of the
Yeah. But I mean, you make a good point though about if they draft Shedeur Sanders, it's now gonna be those 2 guys, like nobody else. Trevor Lawrence, that's it. Like you're the starting quarterback, but nobody cares about you anymore. Everyone's gonna be looking at Shedeur like, hey, when's he gonna play? When's that guy playing?
I'm just thinking out loud at this point of if the really quarterback needy teams all have passed on him, then now we're kind of down to does a team, because a lot of teams draft quarterbacks every single year. Just because you just draft a new quarterback and you just, see how they do in training camp. So at this point, is there a team that wants to draft a quarterback sometime tomorrow? They didn't even they have their draft board, but they knew they weren't going to get one of the top ones because they're picking like in the 5th or 6th round. Would one of those teams pick Shedeur Sanders, or or vice versa? Would those teams be like, well, look, we just want to draft a quarterback just to have some fresh blood in the QB room, but we don't want the circus. Like the Tim Tebow thing. It's like, well, we want a good locker room presence, but Tim Tebow brings so much media and press that we don't want to deal with it. So it's like, we want to draft the Ohio State guy because we know that he was a successful college quarterback and we know he's a good locker room presence. We don't want Shedeur Sanders because there's going to be cameras everywhere and Deion's going to be here and there's going to be all these media. They're going to be interviewing the coaches every week in the press conferences, and their first question is always going to be, how's Shedeur Sanders doing? Even though he's like the 4th string emergency quarterback.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
So I could see those teams. So on the one hand, I could see those teams drafting him because they would be like, well, Mel Kiper says he's the best quarterback in the draft and we just got him for nothing, But I could also see them saying we don't want the drama, and vice versa. the handful of teams that genuinely need a quarterback like right now and still haven't gotten one, same thing. I could see them drafting them because they could be like, well, I mean, we got to draft a quarterback and because we need to have a QB competition like this summer. And, you know, this guy was like the number 2 overall and we got him in the 6th round. That's a steal. On the other hand, again, I could see those same teams being like, look, we had an opportunity to draft him like 4 times already and we didn't because we've already decided we don't want him. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where he falls. We decided we don't want him on our team. It's in my opinion, it's starting to become more likely that if a team like of course, the Browns picked Dylan Gabriel, but like teams like the Browns, the Saints, the Steelers, these teams that have either already picked some weird dude or not, if they already had 2 or 3 or 4 picks and didn't pick them, that might be their way of saying that, you know, athletically, we think he's, you know, the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback in the draft, but we don't want him on our team.
So I don't know, man. I'm looking at some of these players, and the Houston Texans drafted both of the wide receivers from Iowa State, Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I love how that's just that's the headline on the front page of everything. Sanders remains undrafted as free fall continues.
See, even that, just the fact that he's still the headline. Some teams are going to be like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know if I want that baggage.
Yeah. I totally understand.
And so we look at the rest of these quarterbacks. So, of course, Shedeur Sanders is there. But then we have Quinn Ewers from Texas, Kyle McCord, Syracuse, Riley
Quinn
Leonard.
Ewers, yeah. I forgot about him. About him.
Riley Leonard, Notre Dame. Will Howard, Ohio State. Max Brosmer, Minnesota. Curtis Rourke, Indiana. Brady Cook, Missouri. Graham Mertz, Florida. Seth Hennigan, Memphis. Cam Miller, North Dakota State. Donovan Smith, Houston.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of garbo. Is what.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, there are seasons where there's just more teams drafting a certain position where it's like a lot of those guys know that in certain years they wouldn't get drafted at all. But in other years, it's like, look, man, if you know that most likely you don't have a long future in the NFL, but you get drafted in the 5th or 6th or even 7th round, like they can't take that away from you unless you kill your wife or waiter. Like, dude, you got drafted
right
to an NFL team. So they're going to enter the draft because their college career is over. So they'll enter the draft and just hope for the best. Maybe they nail an interview, whatever. You even think of a guy like a Kellen Moore, for instance, who came out of Boise State, super highly decorated, but everyone said, well, he can't play because he's not that talented, even though he was really good in college. But he basically only got drafted to be a coach. And now he's a fucking head coach. So, It does happen. But like Shaduer Sanders obviously ain't that guy. He's not smart. He doesn't play heads up ball. He didn't even play a pro style in college. He definitely has legitimate things going against him that explain the situation. The only thing that those things don't explain is the fact that other quarterbacks who are objectively less talented than him have already been drafted. So that would mean he must be an absolute nightmare to deal with. At the end of the day, football teams just want to win. And so if they're choosing to not draft a guy that they know is a better player than another guy, it's because he must be an absolute nightmare.
I'm thinking as we're talking about this, I'm thinking that I'm thinking of changing the title of this episode because we talked about Pete Buttigieg, but then the rest of it, we talked about where's Shaduer Sanders going to go? Maybe I should change the title of this episode to "Are NFL teams racist for not drafting Shaduer Sanders?" I think that'd be good. That's a good one. What do you think?
I mean, it works for me. I mean, who knows? Depending on how tomorrow goes, we may do that episode again next week.
Can you imagine? Oh, he's undrafted. Guess what, guys? He's going to the UFL. He's going to be playing for the Memphis Showboats.
Oh, could you imagine?
Man.
Dude.
Yeah, that would be good.
Dude, it's already like half past the hour. What are we doing here? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the show's going to be pretty much over because there's no Tom Myers to watch, so you're good on that.
Oh, he gave up again this week?
He gave up. Yeah, nothing to talk about, I guess. No political anything. No Trump news. But real quick, $66 million experiment to dim the sun to combat global warming gets okay.
We're literally witnessing our extinction event.
Yeah.
Like,
and another one that I actually didn't get to last week from CNN Health. Yawning may be more dangerous than you think, experts say.
Well, I'm in trouble then because
yeah. There's all the talk about experts, and you've never been to this country, then you must not. You can't have any say. But experts say yawning may be more dangerous than you think. So.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people make the legitimate point that, like, in the last year or two, there's been a ton of quarterbacks get drafted, and even a lot of those were really questionable talents, but they got drafted because there was just a ton of teams drafting quarterbacks. Well, because the NFL currently has like 800 quarterbacks that are 22 years old, there's less teams drafting quarterbacks. So, it is what it is.
Well, prediction. Do you think Shaduer Sanders will be drafted in day 3?
Oh yeah, he's going to get drafted tomorrow. It would genuinely, even with everything we've talked about, it would be a genuine big shock if he didn't just was undrafted. That would be nuts. Because again, at the end of the day, if you were in the 7th round, and especially if you had already addressed all your areas of need, and you're just talking like there's 10 or 20 more compensatory draft picks in the middle of the afternoon tomorrow, and Shedeur Sanders was still on the board, fuck it. Draft him, go to training camp. If he shows even an ounce of hubris, see ya. Better luck to you next time, But for all you know, you're the team that takes a chance on him, and then he shows up humble and hungry and whatever words you want to use, and he works hard, and let's just say he just makes the team. He just makes the final roster. And then at that point, if he does anything at all, he'll have been worth a 7th round draft pick. If he plays a few games as a backup and then you trade him for a 5th rounder, you at least you increased your draft pick from 7th to 5th, right? So there's no way he just doesn't get drafted. If he doesn't get drafted at all, then that legitimately means that out of, say, because again, it's not 32 teams, because there's not 32 teams drafting a quarterback. Out of like a dozen teams, all 12 of those teams talked to this man and were like, you're a piece of shit. And that's it. If that happens, then he gets what he deserves. If he actually, honest to God, gets undrafted because every single one of those teams point blank says to his face, we don't like you, then yeah, he must have really been a piece of shit. I would have loved to hear what he said. I'm seriously, like, look, the NFL is full of pieces of shit, right?
Yep.
So it's like, man, what did he say?
Well, I will be different and say that he will not be drafted day 3. Mainly because I want to see the news headlines being like, the racist NFL owners didn't draft a black quarterback. Because I'm sure someone's going to write that article if it happens,
Other than Jalen Milroe and Cam Ward and
right,
yeah.
But it's the one that everyone talks about.
Okay, well since you're being nuts and saying he won't get drafted, I'll challenge you with one final question before we go.
Cool.
If he doesn't get drafted, he'll get signed as a free agent for $20. What team signs him? Because at that point, anybody could sign him for nothing. So what team signs him? Please say the 49ers.
I was actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's go. I love the news.
So they
news going over there.
So the 49ers don't sign Brock Purdy, but they do sign Shedeur
Hey, he'd be
Sanders.
cheaper. He'd be cheaper than cheap.
Well, yeah, he'd be cheaper. He'll be making.
Yeah.
At this point, I would say that even if he does get drafted, if he doesn't get drafted right, in fact, I won't even say if he gets drafted right away. I'd say at this point, because at bare minimum, it's round 4, right? Because we're through 1 through 3. Mm-hmm. He will get a pay cut. He will have made more as a senior at Colorado last year than he will make this year in the NFL. Isn't that weird? Just take his name out of the equation. Isn't that nuts? He's taking a pay cut to go to the NFL. What the hell is going on?
Yep. Humbling experience for Shaduer Sanders. So good luck to you and everyone else who are going to be making a ton of money in the NFL. And go 49ers. That's all I got to say about that. And yeah.
Shadeur's NIL deal was $4.7 million.
Damn.
He ain't making $4.7 million next year in the NFL.
Especially if he goes undrafted. He's making $150,000.
If he goes undrafted, he'll make like a few $100,000. If he gets drafted basically anywhere, he'll make like $1.5 million. Something like that. Yeah. So yeah, he is absolutely taking a pay cut to go to the NFL. That's wild.
Trying to think of a random team. The Jets. I'll just say the Jets. If he gets undrafted, the Jets will pick him up. Fuck it. Jets. Jets. Get ready to go to New York. And hey, you like the glamour and the glitz. Mm-hmm. There you go. Go to New Jersey. Because they say New York Jets, but it's in fucking New Jersey.
That big rivalry with Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. Can't wait. All right. Thanks everyone for watching and tuning in. We did not talk about Jordan Peterson. We did not talk about Douglas Murray on Real Time with Bill Maher. We also did not even mention that Ben Shapiro was interviewing Zelensky, because I'm sure that'd be groundbreaking. We don't know what they're going to talk about. No idea. All right. Bye, everybody.